up? Welcome to the Wealth Exchange. It's your man, Ephraim Jackson, your licensed financial coach and your guide to kingdom wealth building. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, where we're exchanging ideas, exchanging information, all to help you grow your wealth and in your faith. So today, I got to talk about couples and money, because it is like a huge thing where couples are not aligned financially and on the same page. So I brought in a power couple with me. So they've actually been through some of the classes that I've done. But I want to just introduce you to Michelle and Patrick Johnson. They're going to talk with us today and talk about their experience with finances and how they've joined them as a couple and just how things have been going. So welcome, Patrick, Michelle. Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
Yep. Awesome. And you guys got like tons of surprises going on. I hope you don't mind me telling everybody.
So
that's fine. Yeah, that's totally fine.
And expecting what, in February you do?
February 25th. Yep. Our lives will change forever.
For the better. For the better. For the better. We're excited. We can't wait.
No, it's a beautiful thing, man. As you know, I'm on baby 4 in my 40s. That's how I call it.
4 out of, you need at least another few more just to, round it out.
Oh, so. Bro, I'll no.
Talk to your wife about that.
We about to get this interview real quick if we go that road.
I don't know. She pushing more babies.
It's all about legacy.
She's trying to push more babies.
I got enough legacy. We good. But no, real talk, man. I appreciate you guys being on. You went through the class, and I can't remember how long ago was that? Was that like a couple years ago, 2-3 years?
It's been a couple of years because we've been in Virginia Beach since 2019. So probably 2018 is when we took the class.
Oh my goodness, man, time flies, man. So
it does.
What was like the biggest difference? Because and I appreciate you guys taking the class and sitting and listening through me for a bunch of weeks talk about stuff. But what was the biggest difference, financially, life before and then kind of life afterwards? What was the biggest difference?
For me, I think it was about, we were pretty new to being in marriage. So I think the biggest thing was just trying to align, both our income and our expenses and just trying to strategize on our budget and savings and things like that. And I think that what benefited us about being a part of your class was just kind of having, someone to support us in that journey.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Patrick. For us, it was like we were not on the same page with our finances. We did not communicate enough about our finances. I think we just had this blind trust that like, oh, he got it. Oh, she got it. Oh, there, right. And we certainly had joint account. But we also had like other personal credit cards and just different things that were going on that we didn't communicate about. So your class really made us sit down and have an honest conversation about how much debt are we really in.
Yeah, those are tough conversations to have. So it's funny because you said the class kind of helped you to start having the conversation. So what is it about having the conversation? Because I talk to so many couples about money, and I hear the same thing, like what you just said, right? It's like, oh man, I don't want to have the conversation. So what is it? What was keeping you from having the conversation?
Accountability. Being held accountable about something. I think that's the biggest thing when you have to communicate, and ask, and have that tough discussion about, this is what I'm possibly bringing into the marriage, or this is what we have to work with regards to our budget and finances and trying to get that situated. I think those are tough talks that you have to have with your significant other. And I think that was something that, we might have been apprehensive about having, right away.
Yeah. Right. And, when you have that conversation, there's an expectation that you don't continue going in the same direction you were going. Right. And so, both Patrick and I had been single for a long time. We had been independent for a long time in terms of our finances. And so when we had to sit down and have that conversation, it was like, oh man, so that means that I can't spend the money on this. Right, because we also have this bill. And so it was like, oh, okay, we actually have to change some things versus just like having a talk. It was like, okay, this means we need to like actually get on one accord, which means that there are compromises that have to be made.
Yeah, that's like so key because especially when you said it, because when you start off in a relationship, especially when you're going to go to marriage, right, and it's just about you, right? You're taking care of your thing, yourself, and especially if you're somebody that was pretty independent before and you're like, well, I don't want nobody telling me nothing, like how to handle my money. So, and then now you got to come together, right, with somebody else and make decisions with this other person. And then the decisions may not line up with the decisions you want to make. So I know that accountability, you said that was huge in that piece, but so as you're making decisions, right? So how have you guys worked out the compromise? Like, how do you know which decision you're going with? You just always let her win.
I think you build it. I mean, I think you build it, like as far as just establishing that trust, that, that does take time, because, you have to trust each other enough to, to, when you're talking about, the expenses and, hey, things that, you may be wanting to purchase, or things that you want to maybe save towards, the other person, you also have to be trust the other person with regards to just being okay with that, and being okay. Like, I'm gonna trust you to take care of this part, or we're gonna take care of this part together. So I think like trust is a big thing.
Yeah, that trust piece is important. And essentially what you're trying to do is come up with a strategy that you both can agree upon.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's right now our priority is going to be to pay down credit card debt, or right now it's going to be to pay down student loans, or is going to be to save. Like, we both have to like be on one accord about that. And so I think it's part of like establishing this, okay, we're in agreement with each other. Right. And again, it goes back to like going in the same direction, right? Like, is our focus right now on, we want to save for a house. And so then that may lead us to make one decision, as opposed to, is our focus on getting out of debt, then that may lead us to another decision. And so I think it's really about like, it's that trust piece, because you have to trust that we both have our common interest, like we both have the best interest of the relationship. And again, it's hard, because you may be like, well, that was your debt that you racked up. Why do we have to spend our finances worried about your debt? And the same thing for someone else's certain expenses. So it's a trust thing, it's a compromise thing, it's a all of the above.
Right. And that's so true, because it's almost like, those workout bands that you put, you do where you do the, I don't know what you call it. The little.
The resistance bands.
I don't know what they are.
The resistance bands.
Yeah, thank you, resistance bands. So it's kind of like having that.
I ain't worked out in a while, so I don't know what y'all talking about.
I don't know either, man.
I ain't worked out in a while.
This is my workout. This is my workout motion.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. But you think about like that what you just said about going different directions, and it made me think about that analogy. Like, if you got people and they say they got like a resistance band around them, and they're trying to go the same direction, but if they start going opposite direction, that's when that band starts stretching. That's when that tension starts coming. Yeah, because they're going the opposite way. But as long as they're going the same way, that band is relaxed. It is not, that tension isn't there, right?
Yeah.
So that's just so key. I love what you said there about just being on the same path. And I think we got to talk about it too, about how faith has helped you guys stay on the same path, right?
Yeah.
Because I always tell people, you got to be on the same path, you got to be on the same page, and that the ultimate guide to keep that together is God, is to keep that faith there. So how has faith played in with the financial journey, and how has that like been a part of what you guys have been doing?
I mean, for me, spiritually, I think, understanding the word and understanding, my role in the marriage, being the head of the household, and just having pride in that, in the importance in that, in guiding the family, especially with the baby on the way. Prayer to me right now is very important. I'm asking God to intercede in situations and make things whole, and just try to continue to steer us in the right direction with regards to our finances. Just making sure that we're making wise decisions, because at the end of the day, I think that is the most important thing, is that not only for us to be on one accord, but with the decisions that we make, understand the impact that it has in the future. And I think that, I feel very blessed with the fact that, we have that as our top priority with, with having our faith in God and knowing that He's going to continue to steer us in the right direction. So I think that is a big focus for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's foundational to everything, right? In the word, it talks about acknowledging God in all of your ways, and He will direct your path. And so that includes finances, which is, that's a big one.
Oh yeah.
Because first of all, starting off with tithes. Secondly, then trying to figure out, all right, obviously your typical bills, but then again, going back to your financial strategy as a couple, whether it's ensuring that what you're trying to devote towards is like your purpose. So like if you're interested in starting a business or anything like that, or something else. And so God has to be central to all of that. Otherwise, I mean, you can come up with all the strategies you want, but if God ain't in it, then you're gonna find yourself even more frustrated and just stressed out than you normally would, because you won't make wise decisions. And so, what Patrick talked about in terms of like wisdom, that I think that if you are consistently in communication with God, that will come.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back to the points of time. So I think the biggest thing is, because that just goes hand in hand with what we talk about as far as with budgeting. I mean, you may have situations. It was something that I struggle with before the marriage with understanding the importance of paying tithes and the impact that has and the blessings that overflow because of that. And I think that with couples or just anyone, people may have those bills are getting they get overwhelmed with bills, and that check's coming, and they struggle with kind of making that decision on, okay, am I going to pay my tithes and give what I owe, or because I'm have this extra bill, am I going to pay this? And I think that for us, because of the fact that we've been faithful in our giving, that we don't have those situations come up. I think it's because we give freely, and as far as with just understanding the importance of that, and we don't have those situations where we have to kind of money is tight. And I think that that's another thing, because it all comes back to having faith and believing that God's going to get you out of those situations.
No, that's so true, man. It's because it's you take care of God's business, He'll take care of your business, right? You take care of His, He'll take care of you, and that's so important, man. It's I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier with the being on the one accord, because I think that's key. Being on one accord with your plan, your goals, being on one accord with your faith, and making sure that's in alignment. Because what I've seen, especially in doing counseling and talking with couples and other people with finances, if it's not addressed, if you're not on one accord, and let's say you got like a dream, like, oh, I want to own a food truck, or I want to, whatever it is, and that dream doesn't come to pass, I've seen couples start resenting the other person, right? And so now it's like, oh, you're keeping me from being able to do what I want to do because you're not on board with moving forward. And so that can be just so detrimental to a relationship, right? It's just like, if you're not on the same page, it's so key. So I just want to go back to that, because I just thought that was just so powerful, just to bring that back into play. But I want to be real with folks too. So let's have our be real moment. So they're like, uh-oh. So here's we read. So what was, because everybody has that one come to Jesus moment when when you're a couple and you're dealing with finances, right? So what was one moment that you're like, okay, we gotta get this? What was the thing that made you say, okay, now I'm ready to go a different direction? Like, what was it? The class? Was it something else? Like, what was the aha moment that was like, yep, I gotta do something different. I'm done doing X. I'm ready to start doing Y, Z, and everything else.
I think this, so I think for us, and let me know if I'm wrong, I think the biggest thing is when it became having that talk about debt, possible debt that you're bringing into the marriage, and that was discussed. We had spoken about that prior to being married, as far as with that. And, I had to, really be upfront with her and express, that I had a lot of debt with regards to student loans. And that was something that I was bringing into the marriage, and just trying to, and I mean, Michelle, we both, went to school, and she didn't have to worry about that, and so it's tough to have that conversation, and kind of talk with somebody about the amount that you're bringing into to the marriage, and trying to figure out, like, okay, well, where do we go from here, and how do we get this situated so that we don't have to have this lingering debt, through the decades and the many years that we're going to be together. So I think that was kind of like, oh, okay, we really gotta get into gear with this, and kind of figure this out.
Yeah.
So what was your reaction then, Michelle? Like when he finally talked about, okay, I got some debt, I'm bringing it into the relationship. You are already smiling, Patrick. So it's like, so what was your initial reaction? Was it, okay, we got this, we're gonna work it out, or was it like, pump the brakes, hold on? Like, what was your initial reaction?
I want a divorce.
Now you being real.
I was gonna lie and be like, oh, it was so supportive, but no, that was my
real talk though.
That was one of the first thoughts that came to my head. And to give your listeners context, we were 2 years probably into our marriage at that point. And so prior to us getting married, again, Patrick, he had shared that he had some student loan debt, and he gave me one number. And I shared that I had credit card debt. And I don't know if I gave him a number, but it was like, oh, this is a thing. But when we had to sit down and have the conversation, and I got to start seeing, like, so it's not this amount in terms of student loan debt, is like this amount. And are you okay with me sharing the number, or?
I mean, if you want to.
Okay, yeah. So, it was $100,000 in student loan debt, which for me, as Pat mentioned, I had gone through school, and I was really blessed to not have any student loan debt. I did have credit card debt because I was going through grad school poor and charging stuff to my credit card. I lived off my credit card. And so we certainly both brought debt into the marriage, but I had never imagined, like, I'm going to be over $100,000 in debt.
So you're looking at, like, wait a minute, it's disproportional to what I'm bringing in, right? So you're looking at.
Yeah. And so it was a struggle, because I was like, I don't want this kind of stress. But what I ultimately determined was, one, I love this man.
Amen.
Two, he absolutely loves me. He supports me. There's no judgment involved. And so even as we were talking about, like, the amount of credit card debt that I had, I mean, it was just like, all right, we just got to figure this out, because we love each other. And, this is something that we can get through. And so, since then,
I want to stop you real quick, because you just hit on something that said, I love this man, and that's something that we're going to get through. But I want to just emphasize for people listening to the importance of having the conversation, right? Because I've literally met with couples 30 years in the game, and they still got stuff going on that the other person didn't know about. I was like, dude, you got 30 years in the game, and y'all still playing these kind of I don't know what's going on type scenarios. So one, just kudos for having the conversation, and two, for understanding and realizing that whatever the situation was, long as you're together, it can be fixed. Right? It can be fixed. So I didn't mean to stop, but I just had to just go in on that, because I just thought that was good. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, for us, it was an exercise in love, right? I mean, when we said I do, it wasn't just like, we couldn't have just said I do based on our understanding of what our marriage looked like at that moment. We were saying I do to whatever, whatever comes. And so, again, both of us were at the point where we were like, we love each other. We know we can get through this. This is not a deal breaker for us. And so we started to have that conversation. We found out it was like not just student loan stuff. It was, medical bills. It was like old cell phone bills that never get, like, it was all sorts of stuff. And we just had to have like, all right, this is what it is. Let's just figure it all out, and we're going to come up with a strategy. And so we did. I will say this. One thing that probably benefited us, which may look different for other couples, is because we're both doing pretty well in our careers.
Yeah.
And so I think it's different when you have a couple who might be, making $30,000 a year, and you find out, oh my God, this person is $150,000 in debt and whatever. And so I think it was a little bit easier for us to kind of swallow this, because we're at a point in our careers that it's like, all right, this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. We're going to have to make some adjustments in our budget. That's not going to feel good, but
you're going to get through it though.
We're going to get
But you said something powerful, and I might missay it, because I think you said it's an exercise in love or something to that effect, right? And even for somebody at the $30,000 level, it's still an exercise in love, man. Because it's because you got to ask yourself, is the debt or whatever the situation more powerful than the legacy that can be created from that union? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so for me, regardless, just saying, hey, we're going to do this together, and having the conversation earlier is amazing. So I want to talk about that, Pat, with you, man. So how was it? Did you find it freeing to be able to find it? And the reason I'm kind of staying on this is because I talk to so many couples that have that happen. But did you find that freeing to be like, oh, it's finally we talked about it. we got to
because I think with you don't want to hide or just like pretend that something is not there when it is there, especially as much as especially if there's going to be some type of impact within the marriage. And I think that was with having those discussions it's rough to talk about it, but I mean it needs to be you need to discuss it with your significant other. I think that's because at the end of the day it's not going to go anywhere. So you either you have to deal with it. Because it's going to still be there. You're still going to, be in this like hide mode, and I'm just avoiding this thing. So I think it's very freeing.
No, that's good. That's good, man. It's always saying that you can't kill a monster if you're not going to confront it. Right? You can put covers up and peekaboo, it just ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And we could talk about Pat's debt too, but I will admit, like, again, I didn't necessarily tell Patrick I don't remember exactly where I was in terms of credit card debt. Maybe it was $12,000 or something. But I didn't tell him before we got married I was $12,000 in debt. So it was. I mean,
yes, it's mutual.
It was a surprise to him. Yep. So I mean, when we had that conversation, it was like we were both freeing ourselves. Like, okay.
It probably was. He's like, oh, okay, you got a little something too. All right, we.
So.
No, that's good. That's why I'm always a big believer of making sure people share their finances even before they get married, right? So that they just lay it on the line, and they have that kind of here's all my information, here's my credit scores, here's all this, okay, here's your information, and then they have that hashed out so they know what they're getting kind of into as they're keeping going. But as now you started work, you went through the class, you went through some different things, you're working some plans out, you got the baby coming now. So what's been the biggest adjustment now? Because now you're going into a whole new stage of life, right? But you still want to keep working your plan. You still want to keep moving forward and keep going there. So what's been the biggest either lesson learned from kind of working the plan, or the biggest hurdle you've had to kind of overcome to keep moving forward?
I think for me, what's very important is being able to lead by example. Like, so when I love my parents. My parents did an awesome job. They raised such a lovely, handsome boy, as you can see that from. But
with an excellent beard game, by the way. I'm jealous.
Thank you.
Like, everybody I bring on this podcast has way better beard game than me. I don't know what's going on.
But I mean, they did a great job. But I think the biggest thing is that the practices as far as with their finances and the things that they implemented. Looking back at it, it was things that we're not going to practice. I mean, I think, if you've, with family and parents, I think the one thing is nobody ever talked about the bills or what they, it was like, this is grown folks business. Stay out of grown folks business. And I think that, you know, and I think that information, you know, maybe not all of it, but I think some of that information needs to be taught to your child and things like that. And I think that for us is making sure that we're implementing things like that, that they understand the importance of being an entrepreneur, that they understand the importance of budgeting and things like that at an early age, because, you know, they can, you know, if my thought process is, you know, if you can kind of get them situated and conditioned, that it's going to help them out in the long run when they, you know, finally leave the home and leave the nest. You know, you don't have to worry about them. I think that's a big thing, that with having a kid and being where we're at right now, you know, we're doing good, but you always want more for your child. And so I think that's something that I'm really kind of taking to heart, is understanding the importance of that and making sure that my child doesn't, you know, want for anything, but also that they have the tools and the resources to go out and get their own stuff.
Right. So you got a new level of motivation now with the kid coming. Definitely. That's definitely. What about you, Michelle? Any kind of like major things that you would say as you keep moving forward in your journey?
Yeah. I think Patrick and I both kind of reached a point where we're trying to figure out that balance between working a job, you know, so that we can make money, pay our bills, make sure that our child is taken care of, and making sure that we're still operating within our purpose. Because we spend a lot of time, you know, at our jobs, obviously over 40 hours a week. And we, you know, we often like have those moments of reflection of, okay, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And so we've kind of struggled with the kind of what's next for us. And so it's an interesting kind of point, because it's like, all right, I'm about to have a baby. I can't, like, I don't want to make anything, I don't want to go off too much, where it's like we're compromising our financial security and stuff like that. We've kind of joked about getting just buying an RV and living off the land, so we don't have to deal with the stress.
I've talked about moving into a tiny house with my wife, because tiny house shows and we're like, man, we need to get us a tiny house and just go downsize and just chill. And then we actually did a little vacation earlier this summer. We went to a little cabin here in Iowa, and it was like a little tiny cabin. And then I don't know about that idea no more.
Change your mind.
That changed plans real quick. But that's real what you're talking about, that balance. And I think, you know, the first thing with couples obviously is that trust, that accountability, that we were talking about earlier, that being on one accord, having a plan, moving forward with a plan of action, raising your kids, like you're saying, Patrick, to because every parent wants their kids to be better off than they are, right? So instilling in them everything that you had and then everything you didn't have, right, growing up financially. But then what you said is so key, because that's the next phase, right? It's like, okay, how do I balance, and as a couple, how do I do all of this, right? And be an awesome dad, an awesome mom, show up on my job and actually perform, and actually still keep moving forward with my financial plan and my purpose. So I think that's so true, what you're saying. I think a lot of people out there listening or watching this video will relate to that. And so I just want to talk about that real quick, just because the thing that I think that's helped me with that the most is one, staying in prayer about it, but two, having a dedicated time where I can feel like I'm always putting some work in on what it is my purpose and goals is. And that has helped me out a lot, is actually scheduling it out and working. And that's where that teamwork comes in, right? Because my wife is so good. Like I'll say, okay, I'm getting ready to work on some free to serve stuff. I'm getting ready to go do X. And she knows, okay, she got the kids stay out the room, doors locked, everybody go mind their business, and then I can work. And same thing with her. She's like, okay, I'm getting ready to go do X, Y, and Z. So I think the fact that what you just said about what's the next phase and how do you balance it, and the fact that you talked about that working together, to me, that goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand, because you're going to need each other in order to find that balance, right? So I just thought that was good. So I can, you know, anybody that comes on, if you say a little nugget, I can't just let that go without dropping it. Hey, you know, we can keep talking about this forever and keep going on and on. I just want to say once again, just thank you guys for coming out and being a part of this conversation. I think you guys are an awesome couple. I'm just excited for to see you guys continue growing in the future and see the blessing of a child and maybe more children. I'll get you in the 4 and 40 club too at some point, my man.
We're gonna
Well,
start
you
with
know,
this.
he's 39
Yeah, so I'm
now.
gonna-
So
yeah.
Okay, well, you got to put in that
Gonna
work.
have that
40.
one.
Come on.
Yeah.
You got to put in that work. But I know, I just want to leave with a couple of key takeaways and just to kind of wrap up kind of what we talked about here. So I want to do key takeaways. So key takeaways for me in this 30 minutes that we've spent is, number one, the biggest thing that kind of is on me right now is, number one, that working together, that being one accord, having the conversation, communicating. Even if that means, I'm a big fan of having at least once a month or a couple times a month where you have a conversation about the finances. You bring in an accountability partner, like you mentioned earlier, that can help facilitate that conversation if you can't have the conversation. But my next biggest takeaway is, no matter what a couple's financial situation is, no matter where they are right now, exercise and love and make a plan, and you can get through it together. So that's my biggest takeaway from the day. What's your takeaway?
I think for me is making sure to plan for the future, making sure that you have a foundation in place, and just like we talked about, just making sure that we're instilling those strong values and beliefs and into our children, so that they can not have to deal with the struggles that we might have dealt with, at younger age and things like that. So I think that's a big focus for me.
I think going back to what Patrick said about trust, if you are thinking about pursuing a relationship with somebody, you have to make sure that you trust them. You trust their financial decisions, and that you all can work together towards that. Because if you don't trust the decisions that your mate makes, it's going to be really hard to kind of move in the same direction, and also to be able to respect each other equally, right? And so that trust factor is huge, and I think that goes hand in hand certainly with love.
Oh, that's good, man. Dropping these dimes, all this wisdom up in here. I'm loving it. So appreciate you guys again. Michelle, tell them what do you got going on? I know you got some things going on. I want to make sure the people listening, watching knows what's going on with you. I think you just started a board game not too long ago. Talk to the folks, man. What's up with that?
Yeah. So last year, actually, I created this board game called Speak Up, and it's a communication-based board game that has like different conversation starters and role play scenarios. And it's going back to that purpose piece. Is a thing that like really energizes me, because it's really important that people know how to establish connections and feel comfortable speaking up, feel comfortable having conversations. And so if you're interested in it, or any of your listeners are, I do have a website called u-speakup.com. And so I think Ephraim will probably have something across the screen, but yeah, feel free to check it out. I'm running a special right now, 40% off. Christmas is coming up. It's perfect for, those of you who have high school students, or even just doing like a game night for your family or a girls' night. So check it out.
No, that's what's love. That's love. And I'll go even further than that with folks here. So whoever, I want you to, people that are watching this in the group, like, comment on it. And if someone gives me a comment about, maybe some goals they're doing as a couple, or some questions or whatever, I'm going to pick randomly from whoever does a comment, and I will buy one and have you ship it out to them. So they'll do a little contest.
Right.
So if you're watching the
Thank
video
you.
in the group, go ahead and leave a comment, leave a question, and then I'll randomly pick whoever does a comment or a question, and we'll get a copy of it out to the whoever that is. So appreciate you guys coming on again, man. It's much love. Always good seeing you. Now we're gonna have to do a part 2 to this after the baby's born. I'm gonna give you a little bit of time though.
Yes.
We don't need it.
Yeah. And then we're gonna talk about them family finances with a newborn when they come through.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks again so much for stopping by. Hey, as always,
pleasure. Thank you.
Ephraim Jackson with the Wealth Exchange. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And always remember, who the sun sets free is free indeed. Break every chain that binds you. You're free. Later.